Okay, we are going to talk about the transformation editor within Vizrt T5. So every container within a scene contains transformation properties, and you can see with our containers here within our scene that we have set up here with this example, all of these little transformation axis icons here represent the transformation editor. And if you hover your mouse over this icon within your containers, it will tell you transformation. So if you click on it, it goes into the transformation editor here. So we're going to go over what each one of these settings and parameters does within here. First, at the very top, we have what's called the coordinate system. And containers can be manipulated in several contexts. One, the parent group, which is on by default, refers to changes that can be made to the container or containers in its parent or group coordinate system. And notice when we have it selected, it is all gray here. When we come over to the local, which refers to the changes that can be made to the container in its local coordinate system, it goes to blue. And then finally we have a world, which refers to the changes that can be made in the world coordinate system. It all goes to a maroon color. So you'll be able to tell which coordinate system you're on by using the parent local. So below that there is an absolute and a relative. And the difference here between absolute and relative is that absolute will show you the absolute values. So as I move one little logo over here, you can see that we moved it 74 and it keeps it 74. If I reset that back by hitting this little X button and I change my position to relative, we can move this, but it's going to reset to 0. And then I can say if I want to move it 12 more degrees or 12 more centimeters, I can hit in 12 and it will just adjust that 12 and then resets back to 0. So that's the difference between absolute and relative. Absolute will keep the absolute value and relative will keep it to the current values. And anytime you want to reset something within the parent, local, or world system, you'll notice your coordinates turn blue. So no matter which selection you are in here, once you make a change here, you'll notice the parameter turns blue, and if you want to reset it, just double click on it. So obviously we were changing the position here, and this is the next setting within the transformation axis editor is the position. This is a 3D program, so we have 3 dimensions. There's X, which moves it left and right. There is Y, which moves it up and down, and then there is Z, which moves it forward and backwards in Z space. And just to let you know, if you come over to the scene editor window, there's also a way to move your objects right within the scene editor window using the transformation axis too. We'll cover that in the scene editor window. Now next to the position, there's a button underneath it says center to camera, and this will recenter your particular container to the center of the camera. Now we have a rotation setting below that. We can rotate on the X, we can rotate on the Y, and we can rotate on the Z. And then below that we have our rotation order. It's set to X, Y, Z by default, but you have other options here that you can change however you want it to rotate. When you do rotate it, again, your coordinates here will change, and if you want to reset everything, you can just double click on it. There's also a face to camera with the rotation, so if you want to get it back to where it was facing the camera, aligned to the camera, you can hit face camera. Below that, there is a scale. And the things you need to be aware here with the scale, you have an X, Y, and Z, but the default setting is locked. So that means when I come down and scale or decrease the scale, it's all going to stay that same size. Now I can change it to single and then adjust the parameter individually. So in this case, we're going to adjust the X, but you see what it's doing to the logo. We're going to adjust the Y, and you can see how that affects the logo. And then since this is a 2D object, we really wouldn't see anything happen on the Z. Now if I make a change here and I say I like that proportional size, I can then change it to proportion, and now this logo is going to stay the same size as we changed it, proportional size to the coordinates that we typed in here. If we want to get it back to locked, we can just go ahead and reset everything by double clicking on the original parameter there, and it will get it back to its original size. Now below that we have an axis center, and again we have an X, Y, and Z setting. And not only that, we have more settings over here at left, center, right. So what this means is that our bounding box here, so if you don't have your bounding box here within your scene editor, turn it on, and when you highlight a container, you'll get this little box here, and it helps us with our axis center. So this axis center will tell us where things are rotating or aligning to this container. So if I have my X, as I move my X here, you can see that green line move a little bit, and it tells you that we are now moving our rotation point or axis center point. And we have our buttons over here. So if we wanted to set it to the left side, we could just hit left. We have a center right there, and if we hit it to right, it will automatically go to the right side. So if I go left and then come up to my Y rotation, you can see it now rotates it on that left side. If I were to change to center and then use the right Y rotation, you can see how that affects it. And then if we change it to right and use the rotation again, it now rotates it on the right side. So this is how the center point works, and then we can do that for the Y as well. We have a bottom that we can set. We can set it to the center, or we can also set it to the top, and then whenever we rotate on that particular axis, that's where it is. And then also for the Z, we have a back, center, and front that you can rotate. Okay, so if I want to reset all of these, I can just come up into my little parameter and double click on all of them. Okay, with that one reset, I'm going to hide that one, and we're going to turn on 2 more containers just so that we can have multiple containers within our scene, and we can see how that affects our transformation axis. First, if we have 2 containers selected within our scene tree, we can still move these together as 2 separate containers as one, kind of like being a parent-child. We can come over to our position and we can move both of these together. We can rotate them, scale them, or whatever. And now I know they look like they're together, but if we were to grab one of these and then just position one over, you can see how that they are separate. So not only can you select multiple containers and move them together, you would also be able to group them together, put them into a group and just move that group. Furthermore, you can copy properties onto other containers. So let's say I have my positioning of the red sphere that I like, and I could just click on the transformation axis editor, and let's say I want to place the yellow sphere in the exact same place. I could just either drag the whole position over, or I could drag individually just the X position over and drag it onto my yellow sphere, and now it's going to take on the exact same X property or X position that we had with our red sphere. So if I move the Y position here, you can see that it took on the X position, and again, if we just take that Y position of the red one, drop it onto the yellow one, it will copy it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hide these 2 things, and one last thing that we want to talk about here is the very bottom. It's called screen transformation, and I'm going to go ahead and just turn on another image here, and we're going to scale it up just a bit, and then we're just going to rotate this randomly here. Now this bottom part where it says screen transformations is grayed out, as you notice, and if we change it to local or world, it's still grayed out, and it doesn't become active until you actually center the camera or face camera. So once we hit center camera or face camera here, you notice our screen transformations now become active, and this will basically, within the bounding box, allow you to define the position of the upper left or define the position of the center or right. So if we change that to left, there you also have an adjustment here that you can make with your numerical value. We could go left, center, right, and it does it automatically. There's a bottom, center, top, and again the numerical box that you can adjust even further. Below that there is a center point, so you can adjust the center point on the X and the Y, and there is an align to pixel. When you're facing the camera head on, sometimes your pixels will not align. This button will turn red, and that will warn you to move the image or object to the nearest pixel. Alright, and then below that we have a screen size, which shows you the screen size. However, if I just wanted to scale to screen, I could just fill the screen automatically with this, and we hit scale to screen, and that will fill the screen here. And then it tells you what the screen size is of that container. So now we're at 1920 by 1080, because that's the full size of our scene size. So if you needed to put a full-size image really quick to match the size of your scene, you could hit that button, scale to screen, and it will do it automatically. Now below that there is a container info, and this includes parent containers plus all visible child containers that it will tell you the information of. So down here it shows you the containers, the number of which are selected, and then the vertices within that container and the primitives that it contains. So if you ever make a change within your transformation access editor and then you want to redo that, there is a redo back within your scene tree, and you can keep hitting that until you get back to where you need to be. Or to reset everything, you just go back to your little buttons back up here, and you can just reset everything through your transformation access editor, through your transformation editor window.